Hey there everybody and happy holidays. My name is Igor Breyman and I'm your newly graduated resident food expert. Now, this time of year we're all thinking about our New Year's resolutions. How some of us want to lose a little weight, maybe some inches off of our waist, something along those lines. But let's be honest. That's gonna last a week, maybe two. So today I thought we'd embrace some of our favorite guilty pleasure recipes. And I'm actually bringing in a guest today, my neighbor, my friend, Brennan Adams. How are you today, Brennan?
I'm doing good, Igor.
Good to hear. So we're gonna be doing 3 dishes today. First, we're gonna make this delicious Rocky Road bacon fudge because you know, any chocolate recipe could use a little bacon. And then after that, we're gonna learn how to make a delicious vanilla ice cream, top it with this homemade caramel sauce, and enjoy. So the first thing we're gonna be doing is getting our bacon cooked, getting it nice and crispy, and we want it extra crispy for this recipe. That way it can crumble into the ice cream and on top as a topping. I actually like to do my bacon in the oven rather than a pan, because in a pan you can maybe get about 4 slices done, but it's a little bit of a messy, splattery process. While in the oven you can really just forget about it. So I'm taking each strip and laying it out this way, alternating, that way the meat sides are all not touching, and then topping it with a little bit of sugar, give it a little bit of that nice caramel taste in the oven, and even some black pepper. Now, even though we're doing desserts with this, I think that black pepper will really bump up that savoriness of the bacon, make it extra delicious. So Brennan's gonna finish this off for me, and then I'll take us to the stove and we'll start the fudge. So now we're starting with the fudge, and I can't lie, this is one of my favorite 2-ingredient recipes. This is my 1950s housewife fudge. And it starts with 1 bag, 12 ounces of chocolate chips, goes into our double boiler, and then 1 can, which is also 13 to 12 ounces of sweetened condensed milk. And what a double boiler is essentially I have boiling water in this pan right under, and then I have a bowl, Pyrex or metal, whatever you like, right on top, but not touching the water. And it's that steam that's gonna slowly warm everything up. And you could definitely do this in a microwave if you want, go in maybe 30-second intervals, give it a mix every time, but I find doing it in this double boiler is a lot safer because you avoid all burning whatsoever. So we're gonna mix this together and slowly you can see everything begin melting. So now Brennan's got the bacon done, so we'll get that into the oven, and we have some that we've already finished and we'll pull it right out.
No, I had to bring home that bacon, Igor, and about to whip this out for you.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
Ooh, look at that brownness, dude.
And that's why I love using an oven, because that nice heat gets to go all the way around the bacon. You get everything perfectly crispy. While in a pan, sometimes, you know, you have chewy bits, some overdone bits, so this is my favorite thing, right? So now Brennan's gonna begin giving our bacon a nice rough chop. I like sort of a nice coarse texture to it. I don't like bacon dust. And I'm gonna begin making the ice cream, which is our second recipe. Now the first thing that's gonna go in here is 4 egg yolks. And why we're using only egg yolks is because that makes the ice cream extra luxurious and very, lack of better term, sexy in the mouth. And that's just what we want with ice creams. But since you don't wanna always have waste of egg whites, you can definitely sub it with just 2 eggs as opposed to 4 egg yolks, but I like the egg yolks instead. And then, as opposed to how our grandparents, our parents have taught us of cracking eggs on the edge of a knife or the side of a bowl, I'm gonna discourage you from doing that because you always wanna avoid breaking that yolk every single step that you possibly can. So I always go on a flat piece of either the board or the granite countertop and right into my bowl right here. And then once I get all the eggs into my bowl, I'll show you another little secret that I have to separate the yolk from the white. Now I've noticed a lot of people actually use the shell to separate, but once again that shell is fairly sharp, so you might even break your yolk when you do that. So I like to reach in with my fingertips, and as you can see the yolk contours to my fingertips and doesn't break, and that way I can lift it out while the white just drips in between my fingers. This is gonna go directly into our little pot right here. So now we got our egg yolks in here, so I'm gonna add a pinch of salt. It's important to always salt everything you do, including desserts, because salt is gonna bring out that flavor rather than just make it salty. Then I have 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of heavy cream, and 1 cup of milk. Now some people actually do this with half a cup of sugar as well, if you want it a little bit less sweet, but I like that full sweetness of an ice cream, that way I don't eat as much of it. And then all of this gets a nice little whisk. And then what we're gonna be doing right now is taking this to the stove and gently cooking it. So what we're doing is making a mixed custard, or almost like a white dessert sauce. And we're going to be cooking this with a spoon very gently on low heat until those egg yolks begin to curdle. And that curdling of the egg yolks is what gives that really creamy texture to ice cream before we put it in the freezer. Now we got our ice cream base, this is sometimes called a custard base, on the stove at low heat. And then if you definitely want to flavor this, which we're doing vanilla flavor, you want to add the flavoring after it's already cooked. Because since most extracts are usually alcohol based, that heat from the cooking will have the alcohol fly out into the air and you might actually lose some of that flavor. So that's why it's going to go at the end. So I'll have Brennan start working on this, and then I'll take the fudge back to our station and infuse it with that good bacon. So here we have our fudge, it's just sitting in our double boiler. I'm going to leave it here so it doesn't cool down too much. And now we can start with the marshmallows and the bacon. So I have 2 pans right here lined with parchment paper. You could definitely use aluminum if you want, or just spray it down. But I like parchment because that way after the fudge is done, I can easily lift it out, no problems. First I'll go in with a little bit of the marshmallows. This is where that rocky road part comes in. And then a little bit of bacon on top of that. And by a little bit, I mean a little bit. Then on top of that goes our nice fudge mixture. And the one thing I always want to encourage you guys is make sure you don't get any of this water that's at the bottom of the bowl into the fudge. Whenever working with chocolate, sometimes that water really makes chocolate seize up and you get chocolate lumps instead of a really silky smooth chocolate product. And then this just gets poured right on top. And you continue spooning it on top. And once you feel like you have a good amount, you can press it down just a little bit into all the nooks and crannies. And the residual heat from the chocolate is actually going to be enough to melt the marshmallows down just a little bit and have them puff up. So you actually get more volume in your fudge as opposed to not using marshmallows. Then right here I'll top it with a little bit more. We have some at the bottom, we can also have some at the top. And of course, more bacon. You know, just a little bit. Just a little bit. And then at this point, I like to press everything in to that chocolate. That way you know nothing's going to fall off. And we'll let this sit at room temperature for about 20 to 30 minutes, and it'll harden up into beautiful, delicious fudge. So now our ice cream base is finally done. So we're going to kill the heat, and let me show you how it's thickened up right over here. So it's gotten a very nice silky smooth, and as you can see, what we're looking for is the fact that it can coat the back of a spoon. So you should be able to dip the spoon in and then take it out, let's do that once more, and be able to run your finger through and it'll leave a straight line just like that. That's when you know the eggs are finally just cooked enough, but they're not curdled because we don't want scrambled eggs floating in that delicious milk and sugar mixture. So now that our ice cream base is finally done, we're going to add in a little bit of vanilla, only about a teaspoon or so. And then we're going to let this finish cooling to about room temperature or so. Once it cools down, you're going to pour it into a really shallow pan, one that's okay to go into the freezer, because I'm going to show you how to make ice cream without an ice cream machine. I don't own one at home, and I assume you don't own one either. So what we're going to do, we're going to pour it in, then every 10-15 minutes in the freezer, we're going to give it a stir, either with a spoon, a whisk, a spatula, whatever you feel comfortable with. Your main goal is to break up all those ice crystals so they're extremely small. That's where that really nice luxurious texture of an ice cream comes in. If you just pop this into the freezer and didn't stir it at all, you'd end up with one big sweet block of ice, which we don't want. It's the act of stirring every 10-15 minutes that breaks up the ice crystals and makes it extra luxurious and to get that nice creamy texture on the tongue. So feel free to pour this in, Brennan, and we'll pop it into the freezer. Joe. Go for it.
I just made the cream face.
So now we're going to begin making our caramel sauce. And you know, caramel is simply 2 ingredients, sugar and water. But what you're really doing, you're using that water to melt down the sugar and then evaporating all that water out and then getting the sugar up to about 320 to 360 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's where it begins burning and turning into caramel, which is just what you need. But you know, sometimes I actually like to use a different liquid, for example, orange juice today. Give the caramel a little bit of extra depth and burnt orange flavor. So we have about 1 cup of sugar going into our small saucepan, and then just about half of this, which will be about 2 tablespoons or so of orange juice or water, whatever you have around, just to sort of melt down that sugar. So this is what a boiling caramel should look like. And I covered it that way all the evaporation from whatever orange juice or water you have it condenses along the sides of the pot and it cleans off all the sugar crystals that may be stuck there. If you have one stray sugar crystal, it builds a big team, almost like a popularity contest, and influences the other sugar crystals to band together as one. So you'll end up with a really chunky sort of sugar syrup rather than the caramel, which is not what we need. We want to make sure all those crystals melt down and we have it in liquid form, not solid form. Now at this point, we just wait for that color, which means we're up at 320 to 360 degrees Fahrenheit. So our caramel is finally getting some color, so I'm just going to give it a gentle agitate like this to stir it. You never want to put a spoon or anything in there because the same way that the sugar crystals could influence all the rest of them, so could a spoon because of that temperature difference. So we're just going to continue like this until we get that nice deep color, which is definitely coming out here. Some people even say it smells like cherries or sometimes a nice sort of light chocolatey flavor once we are there, but I think this is actually looking just perfect. So now we just have a caramel. If we were to pour this out, it would set immediately like a candy would. So I'm going to have Brennan put in just a little bit of butter. I'm going to turn the heat off. It's about 2 tablespoons. And you'll see this is going to foam up a lot, which is good. It means that butter is melting. And since butter is about 80% fat and 20% water, that's that water really melting out of it. And then we're also going to add in about 2 tablespoons of heavy cream. And this is once again going to bubble. And so what that's doing is it's bringing down the temperature of the caramel and making it into a sauce instead of a hard caramel. And you could also use water if you wanted to thin it out, maybe even more orange juice, but I would avoid using milk because if you put in milk, it would immediately curdle and all those proteins from the milk would set into cheese and you end up with caramel cheese and whey, which doesn't sound too bad, but not for what we need right now. And this is your caramel sauce right here. So this is what your ice cream should look like as it's in the freezer. This is probably after about an hour and a half. You see it's starting to get really nice and thick and luxurious. And now this is a good time to add in any toppings you want if you wanted it inside the ice cream. So Brennan, why don't you give us about a handful or so of that extra bacon we chopped up. Beautiful.
Oh, God.
And we'll save a little bit as a topping for the ice cream, but otherwise we'll fold this in and it should stay fairly nice and crispy.
Bacon is such an erotic food. For some reason, I do not know why. But that looks great.
Now this goes back into the freezer and we'll stir it every now and then. So now all of our guilty pleasures are finally done. Let's see how the fudge turned out. This is just about half hour set, room temperature. You could speed it up in the fridge if you wanted to. Beautiful. See how it peels right off that parchment paper?
Man, that looks good.
We'll give this a nice slice right here. And right before we bring out the ice cream, we're going to make one more topping for the bowl. We're going to do what I like to call banana brulee. So we're going to take this banana, take the top and the bottom off, cut them right in half lengthwise. And you notice I'm not even peeling him yet. I can do that right in 1 second. And we'll just get 2 of these halves. Now at this point, what we're going to be doing is taking a blowtorch, which I encourage you guys to purchase. This one only cost me about $10, $20, nothing too crazy. Now we're going to top our banana halves with sugar, very liberally. And now Brennan, if you'd like to torch these guys up for me.
Don't even have to ask me twice, Igor. Oh, yeah.
And you always want to go with the tip of the flame, and you see slowly that sugar is going to caramelize and turn into a nice brulee. Beautiful. So we got our banana done. Now let us assemble our guilty pleasure ice cream treat. So we have our bacon ice cream finally all set. I'm just going to take a little ice cream scoop. You see how easily that scoops. We'll go 1 right into the middle. Guilty pleasures, we can go with 2.
We could go 2. Let's not be stingy here, Igor.
You're right, you're right. Now, Brendan, feel free to garnish that up with some more bacon. And our orange caramel sauce.
Yes, this New Year's has been good to me. Oh, yeah.
Ooh, delicious. And then I'll garnish it up finally with our banana brulee right off the side. And you have a very elegant yet delicious guilty pleasures treat along with some bacon, Rocky Road fudge.